Good morning, afternoon, or evening, friends. I'm Audrey, and I'm so honored to guide your yoga practice today. We're here in San Francisco, California. As we record this video, I am celebrating and savoring the final days of my 20s and bittersweetly exploring tools for contentment as I transition into a new era, aka my 30s. Maybe you're experiencing a transition in your life as well, a new job, living situation, relationship, or even simply a new intention for your future. Chances are there is some sort of transition happening in your life, whether you are fully aware of it or not, because as they say, the only constant in life is change. In yogic philosophy, the 8 limbs of yoga offer tools to navigate life's challenges and transitions by embodying yoga, unity of mind, body, and soul. One of the 8 limbs includes the niyamas, or guidelines that purify our habits, leading us towards a more positive relationship with ourselves, which is important because we can't form authentic and sustainable relationships with others until the connection with ourselves is strong. This concept was and is the inspiration behind the name One to Flow, which came to me before I even started studying the Yoga Sutras, which makes me believe that it is a universal truth that connects us all despite our diverse backgrounds and perspectives. One of these niyamas, or habits, described in the Yoga Sutras is santosha, or contentment. So how do we cultivate contentment? In other words, how do we biohack our minds to become more content? Well, we practice gratitude. The habit of santosha invites us to accept and appreciate what we have right now and who we are at this moment, then moving forward from that place of contentment and gratitude. Let's find a comfy seat on our mats. You can offer space for the hips to open up by sitting on a block if you'd like. Now bring your awareness to your breath. Closing down the eyes, take a long, slow, and deep inhale through your nose, arriving mind and body as you take in that big sip of air. And exhale out of your mouth, slowly letting the breath go. Take this moment to arrive here now, continuing to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. I invite you to set the intention of noticing all the amazing things you can do during your practice today instead of what you perceive to be shortcomings. I assure you this consistent practice of gratitude will spill over into other areas of your life as well. As we begin to move, remember to listen to your body, back off if you feel pain, take child's pose at any time, and don't hold your breath or take yourself too seriously. We're going to start by warming up specific joints and muscles to prepare our bodies for our peak pose, which is a back bend to open our hearts into a space of gratitude, as well as a hip opener to help us release emotional stress and create space for new ideas. When you're ready, gently come to lie on your back. Bend your knees, planting the soles of your feet on the mat. Now cross your right outer ankle over the left knee, lift your left foot off the ground, and thread the needle by sending your right hand through the space between your thighs and left hand outside of that left leg, interlacing your fingers behind the thigh, then squeeze it in towards your belly for reclined pigeon pose. I like to dorsiflex my right foot, in other words, flex my right toes towards the shin to create even action through the ankle joint. Now imagine, if you will, an invisible hand gently pressing the right knee forward away from your body. This might increase the sensation of the stretch in the outer hip, piriformis, gluteal, and low back musculature. You can stay here or take a hamstring stretch by straightening the left leg and reaching up that shin with the hands. As you hold the pose, remember that it's not about how it looks, but how it feels in your body. Releasing into a supine spinal twist, release that shin and come back to reclined pigeon if you took the hamstring variation. Cross your right thigh over the left, shift your hips slightly to the right, then gently release your knees over to the left, allowing them to hover, or alternatively, you can bring them to a block or release them all the way down to the mat for a spinal twist. Try to keep your right shoulder grounded here to increase the uniformity of the twist through the entire spine. Go ahead and make a T shape with your arms and turn your head to the right if that's accessible and comfortable. Otherwise, just keep your gaze up to the sky. You can stack the knees right on top of left if crossing them is too intense in the hips or low back as well. Relax here for several breaths. On your next inhalation, slowly float your knees back to center, shift your hips back to center as well, uncross the legs and draw your knees into your chest. I invite you to bring your palms to kneecaps and start to draw some gentle imaginary circles with your knees on the ceiling or in the sky if you're outside like me, massaging the sacrum and lumbar spine. Now go ahead and reverse those circles to create balance in the body and mind. Your next inhale brings you back to neutral. And exhale, release the soles of your feet back down to the mat and cross your left outer ankle over the right knee this time. And just like last time, hover that right foot and thread the needle, interlacing the fingers behind the right thigh and squeezing it in towards your belly for reclined pigeon pose. Go ahead and dorsiflex that left foot if you did so on the first side, tapping into the subtle body and sensations of the hips, glutes, and low back as that left knee presses forward away from the body. Again, you might stay here or take a hamstring stretch, straightening the right leg and reaching up the shin. Wherever you are, allowing the breath to flow, only going deeper if the body invites you to do so, never forcing or straining. Releasing into our supine spinal twist. Release hold of the shin and come back to reclined pigeon if you took the hamstring variation. Now cross your left thigh over right, shift your hips slightly left, and softly release your knees over to the right. Again, stacking the knees if crossing them is too intense. Make that T shape with your arms and turn your head to the left if that's accessible and comfortable. Otherwise, gaze up to the sky. Relax here for several breaths. Inhale as you float your knees back to center, shift your hips back to center as well, uncrossing the legs, and then start to rock your spine up and down the length of your mat, noticing the sensations of this transition. After a few rounds, allow the momentum to bring you up to seated and plant your hands in front of you, coming to all fours or tabletop position. In order to build a steady table, we need to create a stable foundation. So align the wrists directly under the shoulders and knees directly under the hips for increased stability. Stacking your bones will also decrease wear and tear on the body over time. From here, on an inhalation, allow your belly to lower as the tailbone and chest lift for a spinal extension, cow pose. Moving with the breath, exhale as you draw your belly in, allowing the tail to tuck under and chin to slowly lower towards the chest. Pressing away from the earth like a scary Halloween cat, we're now in spinal flexion in, you guessed it, cat pose. Take several more rounds of cat and cow at your own pace, allowing the breath to inform each transition. Next inhalation brings us back to a neutral spine. Exhale, slide your hands forward to puppy pose, allowing the elbows to release down to the mat, lowering your chest towards the mat as well, and opening up the shoulders. Pause here for a full round of breath. On your next inhalation, slide your chest and torso forward, hips lower to the mat, and elbows and hands stay grounded in Sphinx pose. So the shoulders are aligned over the elbows. Again, there's this idea of stacking our bones. If your toes are tucked, go ahead and untuck them now, planting the tops of your feet on the mat with legs extended straight behind you. Press down into the tops of your feet, roll your shoulders back, and pull your heart forward, keeping your chin parallel to the ground. See if you can push your hip bones down so you're not compressing the low back. Feel a nice expansion through your chest, and hold here for a breath. Transitioning now into our baby cobra. Exhale, releasing your forehead all the way down to the ground as you slide your palms under the shoulders. Feet continue to press into the floor, so the movement is primarily in the upper body here. Inhale, lift your palms and chest off the mat, not crunching in the neck, but extending through the crown to maintain that length. And exhale, release back down. 4 more like that. Inhale, squeeze and lift, and exhale to release. Inhale to lift, exhale to release. 2 more. Breathe in, press into the tops of your feet, hips, and low back, and exhale to lower. Last one. Inhale, lift. This time, hold here. Go ahead and reach your arms behind you, and if you'd like, you can lift your feet off the ground now, engaging the upper back in locust pose. The back of the neck is long. You should be able to breathe deeply here, otherwise you need to back off a bit. And let's release. Send the hips back towards the heels and extend the arms forward in child's pose. This will set the distance between the hands and feet for downward facing dog and is also a great place to take a sacred moment of pause. Inhale, rise up to all fours, but notice that our arm bones are not stacked this time, but the hands are further forward for down dog. Create a spiraling action in your arms by externally rotating or rolling your upper arms and simultaneously spiraling your forearms inwards. Press into your palms, tuck your toes, and on an exhale, send your hips up and back for our first downward facing dog. For this first one, keep your knees bent as you find length in your spine. Slide the shoulder blades down along the spine, spread your collarbones, and relax the base of the neck. As you maintain that length in your spine, take your dog for a walk by alternately bending one knee as you straighten the opposite leg, feeling a nice stretch in the back of the straight leg. Eventually bringing both heels towards the floor, but remember they do not have to touch the floor. Just finding our edge in the stretch, and stay here for 5 breaths. Transitioning into 3-legged dog, extend that right leg, pointing your toes so the top of the foot faces down, and on an inhale, lift the right extended leg towards the sky, squaring the hips towards the ground. This will likely increase the sensation of the stretch in the hamstring of the standing leg. Then we're going to slowly drop it back down, repeating that a couple times. Inhale to lift, not letting the hips tilt open, but keeping the hip bones pointed down. Exhale to lower. Inhale to lift. Don't worry about how high your leg is going. We're more concerned with the stretch in the standing leg. And on your next out breath, draw your low belly in and up, and bring your right knee towards your nose. Upper body is in plank, lifting the heel towards the glute to really squeeze and lift. Then step the right foot all the way up inside of the right hand so the toes, ankle, and knee are in line with the right hip. Knee is stacked over the ankle. Gently lower your left knee to the mat and release your back foot by untucking the toes and resting the top of the foot on the mat. Allow the hips to settle down and slightly forward. Keep your hands on either side of that foot or lift your torso, resting both hands on your front thigh. Relax into the pose for a breath, allowing the hips to open up in a low lunge. Inhale, tuck your left toes and press into the hands to send that right leg back again in three-legged dog. Pelvis is level. Transitioning into pigeon pose. So same idea here. Exhale, engage your abdominal muscles and draw your right knee to nose as if you're going to come into a lunge. But instead of stepping that right foot up, we're going to bring the right knee behind the right wrist, externally rotating the hip, and rest the outer shin and foot on the mat. Slide your left leg straight back, untucking the toes and pressing into the top of your back foot to activate it. Your shin may be parallel to the short side of the mat, or the right foot might come further in towards the left hip if that better suits your range of motion. Use your core muscles to square your hips. You might stay lifted with the fingertips on the mat in front of you, taking up space, or you might fold forward over that leg, maintaining as much length through the spine as possible on the inhale, and on the exhale, relax and surrender into the fold. Stay here for several breaths. Try thinking of one thing you're grateful for with each breath. Continue to square your hips, breathing into any areas of tightness. Inhale to rise back up if you folded, bringing your hands in line with your hips. And then to release, curl your left toes under and step back into downward facing dog. Lift your tailbone nice and high. Remember that if your hips are tight, you can always bend your knees and heels can be lifted also. Or you might be working towards straight legs and heels on the ground. Try to keep a straight line from wrists to shoulders to hips if that feels okay in your shoulders. Now we'll repeat that sequence of lunge to pigeon on the other side. Extend the left leg behind you. I like to plantar flex the foot or point the toes, moving with the breath. Inhale as you take that left leg as high as you can, keeping both hip bones pointed towards the ground equally in three-legged dog, noticing any sensations in the right standing leg. And exhale to release. Inhale to lift. And exhale to lower. One more lift on the inhale, hips are square, and exhale. Engage your core and bring your left knee to nose, squeeze and lift, then step the left foot up inside of the left hand. Knee stacked over ankle in a low lunge. The right knee can gently release down to the mat, untuck the toes, and allow your hips to settle, increasing the stretch in the hip flexor and quad. Again, you might keep your hands on either side of the front foot or increase intensity by lifting your torso, resting both hands on the front thigh, and hold for a breath. Tuck your back toes, then inhale, press through your palms to send the left leg back in three-legged dog. Check in during this transition. Is the pelvis level? Coming into pigeon pose, exhale as you draw your abdominal muscles in and up, then draw the left knee to nose. Bring the left knee just behind the left wrist, externally rotating that hip, and allow the outer shin and foot to rest on the mat as well. Again, your shin may or may not be parallel to the short side of the mat. You can reduce stress on the front knee by bringing the heel closer to the pelvis. Just listening to your body and allowing your personal range of motion to determine your edge. Slide your right leg straight back. Press into the top of that foot, keeping it activated and reaching back. Chest is open and lifting forward and up. Stay lifted or mindfully fold forward over that leg, maintaining length through the spine on the inhale and exhale, relaxing and surrendering forward. Stay here for a few breaths. I invite you to take this moment to think of one personal accomplishment that you're proud of. Breathing into this space of gratitude and realization that you are enough just as you are and continually growing at a rate that is also enough. Now inhale to rise if you folded. Ground your palms in line with your hips. And to release, curl your left toes under and step back into down dog. Stay here as long as you need. And then when you're ready, walk your feet to the top of the mat, meeting in a standing forward fold. You might take a ragdoll here by clasping your hands around opposite elbow and gently swaying from side to side. Allow the muscles and tension of your spine to release forward, relaxing the low back, mid back, your upper back, and neck. Allowing that tension, which no longer serves you, to pour out of these areas and into the earth from the crown of the head to be composted. And when you're ready, take a slow inhale as you roll up one vertebrae at a time. The shoulders, neck, and head lift last. Roll the shoulders back, palms face forward in Tadasana or mountain pose. Pause here for several breaths. Feel free to close your eyes and feel your feet grounding down into the earth as you practice the art of listening. Now that we're warmed up and our energy is flowing, we'll move into a round of moon salutations on each side before taking our peak pose. A moon salutation, otherwise known as Chandra Namaskar, is a reflection of a sun salutation or Surya Namaskar, just as the moon has no light of its own but reflects the light of the sun. The addition of crescent low lunge in a moon salutation activates the Ida Nadi, or the lunar force within the system responsible for consciousness, as well as the throat or Vishuddha chakra. This 14-step sequence represents the different phases of the moon throughout its lunar cycle. If practiced with the utmost gratitude and devotion, this sequence can evoke divine, flowing moon energy within us. Slowly peel your eyes open if they're closed. This is the first pose of the sequence, Tadasana. So palms are still facing forward. Take a moment to lift your kneecaps to engage your quadriceps or front thigh muscles. Draw your low belly in and up. Chest is open and shoulders roll back. Crown of the head lifts to create a bit of extension in the neck. Take one more inhale here. And exhale, let something go. Inhale, palms face one another as you reach your arms forward and up, then slightly back, finding a mild back bend in the upper back. Maybe you lift your gaze to the hands in Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, palms touch overhead and draw into your heart space as you hinge from the hips to fold forward. Then release the palms to the mat at shoulder width. So knees can be bent here in Uttanasana or forward fold. Inhale to find length through the spine. Now it doesn't have to be a full half lift since the palms are planted on the mat, but maybe just a quarter lift. Exhale, press into the palms and step the left foot back in line with the hip. Back toes are tucked. Lower the left knee to the mat. Ensure that the right knee is aligned over the right ankle. And on an inhale, extend and reach your arms forward and up. Then slightly back for crescent low lunge. Hips can settle forward and down as the chest lifts, reaching through the fingertips. Exhale to come back down the way you came. Plant your palms and step your right foot back to meet the left in plank pose. Inhale as you hold. Press back through the heels as the crown of your head reaches forward to create length through the spine. Core and shoulders are activated here. And exhale, lower both knees to the mat. Rock your pelvis to lift your sit bones. In other words, stick your booty out and hug your elbows in as you bend them, lowering your chest and chin down to the mat in 8-limbed pose. Hips are still lifted and the gaze is forward. Press into the hands as you take your next inhalation and slide your chest forward, allowing your hips to come slightly forward as well, and then down to your mat. Now your legs are extended behind you in cobra pose. Exhale, tuck your toes if they're not already, and send your hips high to the sky in down dog. We've been here before, you know what to do. Hold for 5 breaths, taking a dynamic version by walking your dog or finding stillness. So moon salutations are useful when temperatures are high, like during the summer, as it helps to invoke a cooling and quiet presence. On your next inhalation, lift your left leg in three-legged dog and exhale, step it up into a lunge. Releasing the right knee and inhaling to crescent lunge, reaching through the fingertips as the hips settle down. Exhale to lower the hands down to the mat in a low lunge. And on the inhalation, step your right foot up to meet the left in Uttanasana, forward fold. The chest is slightly lifted and gaze slightly forward. Exhale, allow the head, neck, and shoulders to fully release and grow heavy. Inhale again, hinging from the hips, this time to rise as we reach our fingertips forward, up, and slightly back in Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, draw the palms together and down in front of your heart, then down by your sides, palms facing forward in Tadasana, where we started. Now we'll repeat that sequence on the second side. So inhale, reach your arms forward, up, and slightly back, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, palms to touch, hinge from the hips to fold forward. Then release the palms, knees can be bent, Uttanasana. Inhale to find length and a partial lift. Then exhale, press into the palms and step the right foot back this time. Right knee lowers, left knee stacked over the left ankle. Inhale, reach your arms forward, up, and slightly back. Chest is nice and open in crescent low lunge. Exhale to release, plant your palms and step your left foot back to meet the right, plank pose. Inhale as you hold, pressing through the heels, crown reaches forward, creating space through the spine, core and shoulders activated. And exhale, lower your knees, rock your pelvis to lift your sit bones, and hug your elbows in and bend them to lower the chest and chin down to the mat, 8-limbed pose. Again, hips stay lifted here in this mild back bend. Press into the hands and then slide your chest forward on an inhale. Allow your hips to settle forward to your mat for cobra. Exhale, tuck your toes if they're not already, and send your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Again, hold for 5 breaths and find what feels good in your body. Moon salutations stretch the spine, hamstrings, and backs of the legs while simultaneously strengthening the leg, arm, back, and stomach muscles. On your next inhalation, lift your right leg in three-legged dog and exhale, step it up into a lunge. Release the left knee and inhaling to crescent lunge, reaching through the fingertips as the hips settle downward. Exhale to lower the hands down to the mat, so we're back in a low lunge. On the inhalation, step your left foot up to meet the right, chest is slightly lifted and gaze slightly forward. Exhale, the head, neck, and shoulders release in Uttanasana. Inhale, reach through your fingertips as you rise, reaching the arms forward, up, and slightly back in Urdhva Hastasana. Chest is nice and open here. And exhale, bring your palms to touch and down in front of your heart, then release them down by your sides, facing forward in Tadasana. Inhale, let's reach the arms up one more time from standing to create length. And exhale to fold forward. Plant the palms and step the feet back one at a time to our downward facing dog. Inhale here to lift the hips a little higher, feeling the stretch in the backs of the legs and the spine, allowing the chest to press back towards the thighs. And exhale, lower your knees, cross the ankles, and roll the hips and torso back over the ankles, coming into a seated position or easy pose. Once you arrive there in a cross-legged pose, extend the legs straight in front of you in Dandasana or staff pose. Extend the arms in front of you, palms facing one another. Point your toes, plantar flexion, engage your core, and slowly roll your spine all the way down to your mat, one vertebrae at a time. Now bend your knees and bring your feet in towards your glutes at hip width. Extend your arms down by your sides, palms pressing down into the earth. Take an exhale as you tuck your tail and press your low belly and lumbar spine down to the mat. And on an inhale, press into the hands and feet to lift your hips up in supported bridge pose. Not crunching in the neck here, but lifting the chest and pressing the shoulder blades down to take the pressure off the neck instead. Glutes are engaged as we press and lift. One more deep inhale here. And exhale, gently lower the hips back down. As we transition into our peak pose, remember that all of our bodies are built different and we're all at different stages along our yoga journey. So if it becomes too intense at any point, please use discernment to reduce your range of motion or back off entirely, taking child's pose or any other pose that feels good at any time. So we're lying on our backs, knees are bent with feet on the mat close to the buttocks, reaching down through the fingertips. The feet should be parallel and hips distance apart. Now bring the palms of your hands overhead with bent elbows, placing the palms beneath the shoulders with fingertips pointing down towards your feet. Inhale and press down into your palms and feet as you lift your shoulders and hips up off the floor. Do not press all the way up yet. Bring the crown of your head to the mat, making sure not to put too much weight on the neck. Use your hands and feet for leverage here. Pause for a moment as you make sure that your elbows are staying parallel and not splaying out to the sides. Now straighten your arms as you lift your head off the floor, making sure to keep your feet parallel and knees in line with your feet. Reach your chest towards the wall behind you if there is one, and begin to straighten your legs. To come down, tuck your chin into your chest and lower down slowly. Transitioning into our cool down, rocking and rolling up and down the length of the spine a few times, and coming back to seated. When you've made your way to seated, bring the soles of your feet together and clasp the feet with your hands, thumbs inside the arches of each foot, opening the feet out as if peeling a book open. The heels can be as close or as far from the perineum or sit bones as is comfortable for you. Inhale, sit up nice and tall, sit bones grounded, crown lifted, spine is lengthened. And exhale, draw your shoulders back as you fold slightly forward as if gazing at your reflection in a lake in cobbler's pose. Chest is broad and the pelvis tilts forward. You might press the elbows into the legs for an even deeper stretch. Stay here for a few breaths. And when you're ready, lift the torso, extend your legs in front of you in Dandasana. Inhale as you raise your hands over your head and stretch upwards. Then exhale while hinging forward, bring your head towards your knees and extend the arms to shins or feet in Paschimottanasana. Inhale to rise, extending the arms overhead, and exhale, keep the arms extended, but lower them down in front of you in line with the shoulders. Palms facing one another, and again, slowly lower the spine down to your mat as you point your toes and engage your belly. Bring the soles of your feet to touch in reclined butterfly or Supta Baddha Konasana. Externally rotating the hips, stretching the groin, adductors, hamstrings, and knees. This pose can help to alleviate lower back pain and relieve stress. Now moving into a counter stretch. Inhale, floating your knees back to center. Heel toe your feet to the width of your mat or slightly wider than hip width. Then allow your knees to fall inwards and prop each other up in fallen bridge pose. Stay for several breaths in this internal hip rotation. And on your next inhalation, lift your knees, extend your legs to the corners of your mat, and allow your feet to fall naturally. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths to center yourself. Feel the connection between your back and the earth. Allow the breath to guide you into a state of relaxation for our final pose, Shavasana, or corpse pose. You can pause the video and stay for as long as you'd like in Shavasana, or meet me in a seated position with eyes closed. My invitation for you as we disperse is similar to my invitation at the beginning of class, to notice all the amazing things that you or those around you can do instead of what we perceive to be shortcomings. With each repetition, this practice of gratitude will spill over into other areas of your life with ease. If you're a gardener like me, this quote by Nava Silton may resonate. The cultivation of gratitude may be one of the most effective ways of harvesting happiness. Drawing the hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra, then up to the third eye, the light and shadow in me recognizes and honors the light and shadow in you, and I wish you good health and contentment. Namaste.